Hey YouTubers, T.O. here with Simplistic Fishing. Hey, tonight I want to do something for the viewers, some of the subscribers that asked us for some pre-spawn areas to focus on Lake Ray Hubbard. Now, if you don't fish Lake Ray Hubbard, not a big deal. You might want to stick around and watch the video though, because what we're talking about tonight is the river system that leads into Ray Hubbard. And if you have something similar to that, which most of these lakes do, you might be able to pick up some good tips. So let's jump into it. Let's get started.
Well, let's get started talking about the river. The first thing when we're talking about the river is, first off, I'm talking about the East Fork Trinity River. That's the river that comes up from the left side coming down from Lake Lavon. There's also a creek that's up here called Pilot Creek that comes down the right-hand side. Now, typically I'll fish the left-hand side. I have gone up the right-hand side a few times, but most of my attention is typically focused on the left-hand side. Do want to point out one thing for you guys. Usually when I'm doing these breakdowns for you and doing specific things like this, you'll notice that I use Navionics. In this case, I couldn't really show you Navionics because it's such a shallow area that you can't really tell where you want to focus on. So definitely suggest using Google Earth as a tool if you're trying to dig in and figure out where you want to focus your attention the next time you go fishing. It is definitely a key tool that can help you catch a lot more fish. So with all that being said, let's talk about the river and let's talk about where I would focus most of my attention right now, pre-spawn time, or getting really close to being pre-spawn time here on Ray Hubbard. Today is February the 8th. I think we're going to publish this later on this week, so it's right around that time when fishing's getting ready to get really, really good on Lake Ray Hubbard, especially up here in the river. So to start off on the river, one thing that I would do if I were to come up here is I would look in this river, and really as you're going up it, you're flipping all the trees and stuff like that. But what you're looking for that's really going to help for you in this time of year is those little cropouts that you see, those little ditches and things that go off to the left or go off to the right, that a lot of those fishermen would just pass by as they're going down flipping every tree that they see. Well, if you'll get into those little pockets, flip around those pockets, throw moving baits, chatter baits, rattle traps, square bills, things like that, swim baits, you'd be surprised at what you can catch in those little shootouts that most people don't pay any attention to. So if you're going to go up in the river and you're not going to focus on the flats and you just want to go up there and focus on flipping and things like that for pre-spawn, you can still catch some fish, definitely. But I would suggest finding those little pockets that cut out from the side and putting a lot of attention on those right now, because they're shallow areas and those fish like to get back up in there. So we've already talked about going up the left side of the creek. Let's talk about another area that I would focus on a lot, and that would be right where these two rivers converge. So you've got the East Fork Trinity River here on the left side that we talked about. We've got the Pilot Grove Creek coming from the right side that we talked about, and then they merge right here. And it creates this huge flat that where those two are coming together as well. So you've got a little bit of current coming into this area, and then you've got a nice flat here as well. If you're up here in the pre-spawn time, this is a good area to focus on. You've got a good bend here where a creek channel comes in. You've got a good bend here, and then you've got a nice flat right here with all kinds of stuff that you can throw around with all those things we just talked about, those square bears, rattle traps, chatter baits, and then get you on a beaver style bait and just go do some flipping, or get you on a flipping jig and go have a heyday, because this is going to be a good area to focus on right now. So pay a lot of attention to that. You've also got some more of those cutouts that we talked about. You've got one here. It looks fairly shallow. This image was from 2019, so it is possible that that might actually have some water in it now. So it might be worth going up there just a little bit and flipping around some stuff and see if there's anything in there. You've also got a nice one here to focus on, and then you've got another nice one right here. Just below that you can focus on. Now, another good area to focus on when you're doing this type of fishing is these little points. So anywhere you have these little points where they come in or they make their own little natural point here, focus on the outsides of those. Take a little more time instead of just burning up the bank. Slow down when you get to these spots and fish around them. You'll be surprised at what you can pick up. Now, one big hot spot that I'm going to share with you is right here. But before we do that, I want to kind of tell you how to get there when you're coming into the river, because this is where I want you to spend the majority of your time. So you're going to come into the river, you're going to go around the first bend and then the second bend. And after you get along the second bend, you're going to run into this very first cutout. Now, when you get to the cutout, you're going to see it because you'll be able to look through the cutout and see the flat over there. You can get through there with your bass boat, and you want to get through there with your bass boat because this is the juice over here. Now, one juicy area before you get over here, though, is just like we were talking about, focus on these two little points that are coming into here. This can be a really good area just right in here, right before they start to migrate back into that flat. Now, once they start migrating in the flat, you're going to go up here, you're going to get on your trolling motor, get off the big motor, troll back here, and now you're in a big, huge spawning flat that's probably one of the most popular places on Ray Hubbard in the springtime. As you get in here, the first thing I would do is I would start working my way down this way, all right, towards the front of the creek or towards the mouth of the creek. And so what we're going to do is we're going to work our way here, and then I would start peeling off and work my way over to here. If you get in this little pocket right in here, you can have some pretty good days in here. So get around all the cover, flip around stuff, just like we talked about. Do all the things you would do during spawning time, and you'd be surprised at the fish that you can catch over and all this junk that's over here. Now, there's also a creek channel that comes through here, and let me switch over to Navionics real quick, and I'll show it to you. There's a creek channel that comes right through there. So here it is. Here's the main river. Here's that creek bed I was telling you about. See how it comes right along here, and then it goes down to that pocket we were talking about? Focus on this area right in here. Let's switch back to Google Earth now that you kind of have an idea of the creek beds that are there. Let's switch back to Google Earth. We're going to focus right in here, right? This would be a really good hotspot, and this right in here would be a good hotspot. And then probably comes right up in here somewhere. You'd really have to just kind of play around with it, fish around it, and figure it out. You can also tell by looking at the trees a lot of times where that creek channel aligns. Just by looking at the trees, they'll kind of form their own path, and you can figure out pretty quickly where that creek channel is. So focus a ton of attention on this flat. I think this is where you're going to have the best luck. You can catch some fish right around in here. There's also another little cutout that will take you down into here. You cut over here to this next little part of the flat, flip up around all these bushes right in here, work around that area, especially you've got a creek bed coming in here, so get around this area in here and really just work that cover like crazy and work that flat like crazy. Sometimes you'd be surprised at the fish you'll catch right out in just the middle of the lake. So don't be scared to just really work that entire area. My guess is the tournament that's coming up in late February for the high school guys, it's going to be one up here somewhere. I don't know where, but more than likely it's going to be one in this area. So if you're wanting to go into a really good hotspot for that tournament, I would suggest that you focus most of your attention on the river or at least some other shallow flats that might be within Hubbard. All right, so with all that being said, getting ready to wrap it up. But before we do that, I wanted to point out an area that I just noticed on Google Earth, and I don't know how I've missed this. I've lived here for almost 10 years, been fishing this lake for probably 7 of the 10 years that I've been here, but I've never really noticed this. But there is another creek that comes into Hubbard up in this area that a lot of people don't even know about. And in fact, I've never even been over here to fish, but I want you to check it out, especially if you're pre-fishing, because looking at it on Google Earth, it looks like it could be something juicy. So what I want to show you is it's right here. This creek comes through here, comes underneath Highway 205. This is Highway 205. Comes down through here, and then it immediately makes a really hard turn and dumps out right here. Now, if you're on your way to the river, we talked about it on the Lake Ray Hubbard honey holes, and if you haven't had a chance to watch that video, I definitely suggest doing that. We'll put a link up at the top. But as you're coming up there and you get to the power lines, it looks like you can just head east. Once you get on the power lines, just stay between them or right beside them, and that'll take you right to this mouth of this creek. I would suggest trying this area in here. I know it doesn't look that good right now on Google Earth because the water's down a little bit in this picture, but this looks like it could be pretty juicy. You've got some good flow coming through here, and it's dumping out into a major flat onto Hubbard. So focusing on the mouth of this creek and then maybe even getting up there a little bit might be worth your time. I'd love to know if anybody does do that, if you can drop a comment down below and let me know if that's worth going to, because if it is, I'm going to start checking it out. And if you don't leave me a comment, I'm going to check it out anyways, and I'll let you guys know. So that's everything I would do on the river, guys. If I was pre-fishing right now for the pre-spawn, or if I was pre-fishing for a tournament, definitely in February or early March, I would put most of my attention up in the river in Hubbard because I think that's where the money is. Hope this helps you guys. I hope you do great in that tournament. For those of you that are fishing that tournament, best of luck. I might even be able to see you out there. I believe my son's going to fish that one too. So hopefully we get to see you. And if not, tight lines and best of luck to you. Take care.